Hello, I'm Michael Hainsworth. Put 4 recent immigrants in a room, and at least one of them is way more qualified than the job they're doing. Everyone's ridden in the back seat of a cab driven by a doctor from another country, but it's not just the medical profession. Overqualified immigrants earn almost half of what they should be making, and that cuts into the economy. But if the doctor-driver story isn't anything new, what should we be doing about it? Meet Parisa Mahboubi and Tingting Zhang. Mahboubi is a senior policy analyst with the Howe Institute. Zhang is a junior policy analyst. In their intelligence memo titled Canada's Missed Opportunity, the untapped potential of immigrant talent, the pair write that Canada is squandering a vital resource in its skilled immigrants. They join us now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Yes.
Your report highlights that 26.7% of recent immigrants with an education greater than high school are working in positions that only require high school. Parisa, what about more established immigrants?
So what we see in the data is that given that over time immigrants obtain some skills in Canada, they get more familiar with the labor market. So the overqualification rate improves for established immigrants, for example, those who have been in Canada more than 5 years. But still, even after being in Canada for over a decade, we are seeing significant gap between immigrants and non-immigrants in terms of overqualification rate. So it means that there are some structural issues immigrants facing regardless of the time that it's not going to be solved.
Tingting, you nod. Give us some sense as to what's behind that gap.
Well, there's many factors that can affect immigrants' job overqualification rate. One is, their English ability, how proficient in their English speaking skills, and how familiar they know the workplace cultures in Canada. And also the labor market, right? It's difficult to navigate, especially for regulated professions. So if they don't understand, they don't know how to navigate the system, then they seem to benefit less.
So if overqualified immigrants earn almost half of what a non-immigrant in the same field earns, is that because they're not working in the field they're qualified for, or is this simply a case of discrimination?
I would say it's a mix of both. So what we see is that even immigrants, they are in the field of studies and they are having a job that match their qualification. They are significantly earn less than non-immigrants who are matched to their, their job matched to their qualification. So it's a mix, it's a combination of both. And the reason is that some gaps are justified because so they are working in jobs that they are not in line with their qualification because lack of quality, for example, the quality issue about their education and their lack of ability to transfer their skills into Canadian labor market. But the part of the problem is also about the perceived conception and about how employers think or feel about foreign credentials. So they are not able to validate the foreign credentials. They don't know how to do that. They have no knowledge about the quality of education outside Canada. So some of those immigrants, they are undervalued just because lack of knowledge or information or biases and discriminations. Other part is all about it's justified because there are differences between education system in Canada and in other countries, and also in terms of education institution. Even within one country, we have different types of institution offering education at different quality, or even within one institution, in one classroom, you see that the students are not equal and their skills level are not the same.
The foreign certification barrier is interesting to me. Is this a failing of provincial governments? It sounds to me like it's a whole bunch of different moving parts, because someone who's claiming to be a doctor from another country may have to jump through certain hoops in certain provinces, but other elements are also the purview of the federal level. Is that accurate?
Doctors and nurses or other, regulated professions like engineers, they need to get their permanent residency status to come to Canada, and that is for federal government. But when they landed in Canada and they start to get their certification recognized or recertified in the Canadian regulatory bodies, then that is provincial domain. And every profession has a different regulatory body, and they vary in different province. So for doctors, the requirements for English speaking skills, exams, and also residency practices, they may be the same, but then how the provinces streamline the process to recognize their foreign credentials and also recognize the foreign work experiences. So for doctors who already completed their residency training in foreign countries, can they, speed up the whole process and, use practice-ready assessment so that they only need to go through 3 months of supervised training to make sure they can practice in the Canadian environment, and they are qualified to provide safe and high standard care. So that is different. So that's like every province has their own regulatory bodies that had different standards. So
maybe while we're talking about tearing down interprovincial trade barriers thanks to Donald Trump, maybe we do the same for these types of qualifications?
Yes, yeah, that would be ideal. We have a Canadian licensure and cut down all those red tapes across provinces.
One thing that I like to mention is that harmonizing the requirements for obtaining license in a specific field of a study or in a specific industry is really important, especially for immigrants, because it's difficult for them to find a job that match their skills, and also in terms of, for example, the economic situation affects them more severely than non-immigrants. So if they are to be able to obtain their license, it's a lengthy process. It's costly in terms of financial and time, and they usually come to Canada with families, so they have to also support their families. So the thing is that after going through that process, if they choose to do that, after going through that process and obtaining their license in one province, if the situation is not suitable for them and they are not able to find a job, they are not able to move to another province easily and find jobs elsewhere. And also in terms of, for example, the requirements, given that provinces, there are variations, it's really difficult for immigrants because they have to decide where to settle from the beginning and going through that lengthy and costly process.
You touched on the economic component to this. What is the economic fallout of an immigrant making 46% less than a Canadian born here?
Mm-hmm. That's something that affects both individuals, immigrants, and also it's not good for our economy. We are facing declining productivity and declining standards of living in terms of GDP per capita, something that we need to address. At the same time, we have an immigration system that focuses on skilled immigrants. We want immigrants to be highly educated, to contribute to our economy, to contribute to our productivity. They bring innovation and productivity, but we are failing in that regard. So we are not benefiting from our immigration system to continue, to maximize the benefit of immigration, because we want immigrants to address not only labor market challenges and also in terms of mitigating aging challenges we are facing. So the contribution to the tax base and also contributing to the GDP to the highest level possible is really important, especially now for Canada to become to have a strong economy, to be able also to address all the challenges that we are going to face when it comes to, for example, the threat of tariffs. So if we are able to address issues related to immigrants, given their role in driving labor force growth in terms of, for example, and also in terms of their share in our economy, it's growing and we need to address that problem.
And also for immigrants, they are mobile, right? So they don't, they seek good opportunities for their family, their career, their life, right? So if they face job overqualification, and for many years, that may affect their career progression, their life certification, and very likely they just choose to, go to other countries that give them better opportunities. Then that is a cost for our immigration system because we already select them to come here.
What's the solution here? Do we revamp the express entry system?
We made some reforms in the past and we saw some improvements. However, there is still room for improvement, and our immigration system needs some refinement. There must be some additional reforms. In which way? First of all, CDHI research shows that, and this specific study that we did together with Tingting shows that language ability plays really important role in terms of the contribution to overqualification rates. So, we know that there is room for improvement in our immigration system to place more emphasis on language ability from those candidates who wants to come to Canada. By increasing that requirement, we are also signaling to those candidates that they have to invest in their human capital and in their language ability. So when they arrive, they are ready to at least to be able to find information about the labor market. They can, they can participate in the job search and doing interviews, and to be able to show employers how skilled they are, and they are able to do the job. So because employers, even they are saying that even those who hire immigrants, sometimes they are identifying language barriers as something that is going to affect the performance of immigrants after hiring. So this is really important part. And another part is that in our immigration system, we are emphasizing on human capital. For example, we put value on education level and experience. However, placing emphasis on quantity in terms of, for example, the education level is not enough. Yes, we want skilled immigrants, we want highly educated immigrants, but at the same time, we have to pay attention to quality, something that the labor market and the employers are saying that we need to pay attention to. And our research shows that actually immigrants, the quality of education affects immigrants' earnings in Canada. How we can account for that? There are some, some information about their field of study, their grades, the institution they study. We can use those information to better select immigrants in the pool of qualified candidates. We prefer to select immigrants with pre-landing experience. For example, those who were former international students or they were temporary foreign workers. Those temporary foreign workers in Canada, they work in jobs and they have earnings. And earnings is the best measure of individuals' skills. So we need to, instead of years of experience, or in addition to years of experience, we need also to look at the earnings of those immigrants before immigration.
You mentioned employers, though. What role should they play in tapping the talent?
Well, I think many immigrants realize that employers really focus on Canadian work experiences, right? It's because they want to make sure that the candidates have the soft skills, or besides the technical skill, but have the soft skills and have that familiarity of the workplace culture in Canada, whether they are a good fit to the company, right? So I think for employers, they can really actively work with immigrant serving agencies to find the candidates that match to their job postings, because currently only 15% of employers in Toronto region have utilized those services. Besides that, I think employers can also be creative in terms of interviews. They can use competency-based assessment to assess these candidates' skills. And they can use paid job internships or short contracts to test whether these candidates have the potential to match, to work for the company and will add value to the company. So I do think there's needs a more collaboration between the professional associations and employers so that employers can better understand these foreign credentials and know how to assess this potential candidates and also find the best people for their company.
As the premiers across Canada prepare to talk about tearing down trade barriers in light of Donald Trump, how should they be thinking about harnessing the immigrant talent we have in this country as part of that wholesale review?
So to be able to come up with the plan, removing trade barriers also means enhancing labor mobility. By enhancing labor mobility, it means that also they are moving in the right direction to address barriers to immigrants in terms of, especially in regulated occupations. So they have to focus not only on goods and services, also on labor mobility.
BC and Nova Scotia, they have proven that these practices are working and they can hire more international trained nurses or doctors. So I think there needs to be that sharing of learning across provinces instead of reinventing their own will.
Thank you so much for your time and your insight today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parisa Mahboubi is a senior policy analyst with the Howe Institute. Tingting Zhang is a junior policy analyst with the Institute. Read the full report on which their intelligence memo is based, titled Harnessing Immigrant Talent, Reducing Overqualification, and Strengthening the Immigration System, by visiting cdhowe.org. I'm Michael Hainsworth. Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to the C.D. Howe Institute podcast with Michael Hainsworth. Subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. The C.D. Howe Institute is an independent, not-for-profit research institute whose mission is to raise living standards by fostering economically sound public policies. The Institute is widely considered to be Canada's most influential think tank and a trusted source of essential policy intelligence, distinguished by nonpartisan, evidence-based research and subject to definitive expert review. Visit cdhowe.org and follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. Thank you.